Hi, I'm Patricia Evans, and I'm the author of 4 books on verbal abuse and control. The first is The Verbally Abusive Relationship, tells us what it is. The second, Verbal Abuse, Survivors Speak Out, is all about other forms of control. The third, Controlling People, tells us what's actually going on in the mind of all these people who indulge in verbal abuse, because most of them don't see themselves as controlling. And the fourth book is called The Verbally Abusive Man, Can He Change? Because I haven't seen any women change, but maybe other people have. So this is based on men changing. And I want to talk to you just for a minute here, a few minutes, about verbal abuse and what a verbally abusive relationship is. First of all, verbal abuse is something anybody might say when they kind of forget themselves and say, "Oh gosh, you're stupid," and then "I'm sorry." They usually will hear, "What did you say?" or "Don't tell me I'm stupid," and they apologize. So they're not necessarily making this a verbally abusive relationship. However, verbal abuse is the defining of another person's inner world. It's like a slam into their consciousness. It tells them what they are, what they think, what they feel, like you don't feel that way, or you don't care, or you're trying to start a fight. Or there's so many examples. There's a total of, say, 400 examples in the back of the latest book, The Verbally Abusive Man, Can He Change? And before I go on, I don't want to forget to tell you, you can find all these books, first of all, through verbalabuse.com. Look at Patricia Evans books, and you'll see the 4 titles. So you can also order through any bookstore in the U.S., Canada, England, and some of the other languages that they're in. Also, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, any of these places that sell books either have them in supply or will get them in right away for you. Okay, now back to the message of verbal abuse. We know verbal abuse is the defining of someone's inner world, and in a negative way, or the defining of them as even non-existent in withholding, like no response, like shunning them. That's abusive. And it also can include threats and all words used to control another human being, to erase their perceptions, to tell them that they are less than they are, to define them as objects or anything else. So in the verbally abusive relationship, we learn that there are categories of verbal abuse, like discounting and trivializing and name calling, withholding, criticizing, judging, and so forth. And when you look at or listen to something said to you, or think about it later, write it down and say, wow, why did somebody do this to me? You might analyze it and say, oh, they were criticizing me, or that was just plain old name calling, or something else. But another way to look at it is simply to say, am I being told something about myself in my inner world without being asked? For instance, am I hearing a joke that I think is negative and puts me down, or puts women down, or puts people down, puts some race down? And I say, I didn't like that. Okay, so if I'm hearing, you just don't have a sense of humor, you can't take a joke, I'm hearing verbal abuse. So it's good to start to notice, is this real, what I'm hearing? Is this someone crossing a boundary, stepping into my being, telling me that I'm made wrong, too sensitive, or that I'm trying to start a fight, like this person lived in me and knew my motives? So what I want to leave you with is that verbal abuse defines your inner world, defines you as less than you are and not who you are. Verbal abuse may attempt to control you through threats and accusations and blaming, so that the person who experiences it can become confused. They can hear I love you and then be treated in this horrible, horrible way. They can become very sad. They can feel worthless. Uh, One of the things that was recently in the news was that somebody reported on CNN that Michael Jackson's father had verbally abused him. And so right away we look at this tremendous impact. And the impact that fathers have on their children is enormous. It's enormous. And even very young children, just 4 days ago, I had a call from a woman trying to figure out how to extricate herself from this spouse who, when the 2-year-old baby girl cried in the night from a nightmare, woke up crying, the father said, "Quit your crying, I'll give you something to cry for," screaming at this little 2-year-old. So that changes this child's brain, that shocks the child, it traumatizes the child, it's destructive beyond anything we can know. I think that it's time for everyone to be aware, to protect themselves and their children as much as they can, protect everyone that they know, and really listen to what people are saying. If someone's saying, my spouse is really hard to get along with or difficult, usually victims hear, well, he's just fantastic, he's wonderful, because the abuser or the perpetrator has an inside personality and an outside personality. And the inside personality is the one the partner sees. The outside personality is the one the rest of the world sees. So if the partner looks at this problem and says, gee, I'm having a problem, they may hear, hey, you're so lucky to be married, or to be with this guy, you're so lucky, he's just so nice, I can't believe you find him abusive. Well, there's a response to that, and that is, even Scott Peterson's in-laws, before they found Lacey, said he couldn't have done anything to Lacey, he was such a nice guy. So the outside person does often seem to be a terrific person. The person on the inside, that's always a question. So it's important to be aware that verbal abuse is insidious and that it doesn't show up in public, that it is an assault to consciousness, that in a verbally abusive relationship there's no reconciliation. Very few people see it. It is a very difficult thing for people to explain, and a lot of times people just buy extra copies of the verbally abusive relationship and give it to people so they can understand the other person's can understand their experience. It's not something easily understood, I'm sure. Then also the reason the abuser has like two personalities, the outside one and the inside one, is because it's only when, or usually when he's alone with his partner, or maybe alone with his partner and some children, that he sees and hears words coming from her. He sees her as a person. He's not out there just focused on other people. And when he sees her as a person, he may feel very threatened because she doesn't match his projection. So in the next time we're talking, I will be talking about that projection and how a person who indulges in verbal abuse can think nothing of it and seem to be perfectly happy after a really, really bad incident. Thank you.